Avalokiteshvara, known by different names in different cultures, such as Guanyin in Chinese Buddhism and Chenrezig in Tibetan Buddhism, is one of the most revered and beloved Bodhisattvas in Mahayana Buddhism. Avalokiteshvara is considered the embodiment of compassion and is believed to hear the cries and pleas of all sentient beings, responding with great compassion and assistance. Here are some key aspects of Avalokiteshvara. 1. Compassion. Avalokiteshvara's primary attribute is boundless compassion, often depicted with multiple arms and hands, symbolizing the ability to reach out to countless beings. Avalokiteshvara's compassion knows no bounds. 2. Gender fluidity. In some Buddhist traditions, Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, is depicted with gender-fluid characteristics, reflecting the idea that enlightened beings transcend conventional notions of gender. This understanding is particularly prominent in certain Mahayana Buddhist contexts, where Avalokiteshvara's gender identity is seen as fluid and transcendent. Here's a detailed explanation of the gender fluidity of Avalokiteshvara. A. Gender transcendence. Avalokiteshvara's gender fluidity signifies the transcendence of conventional gender categories. As an enlightened being, Avalokiteshvara is believed to transcend the limitations and dualities of gender. B. Manifestation in various forms. Avalokiteshvara is often depicted in various forms, engenders to connect with and guide sentient beings according to their needs and dispositions. These manifestations emphasize the universality of compassion and the ability to adapt to different circumstances. C. Compassion beyond gender. The fluid representation of Avalokiteshvara underscores the idea that compassion is a universal quality that transcends gender distinctions. Avalokiteshvara's compassion extends to all beings, regardless of gender identity. D. Inclusivity and acceptance. Avalokiteshvara's gender fluidity reflects the Buddhist values of inclusivity, acceptance, and non-discrimination. It encourages practitioners to recognize the interconnectedness of all beings beyond gender roles. E. Symbolism of oneness. Gender fluidity in Avalokiteshvara's representation symbolizes the unity and oneness of all beings. It highlights the interconnected nature of existence, beyond the boundaries imposed by gender. F. Cultural interpretations. Different Buddhist cultures may interpret Avalokiteshvara's gender fluidity in diverse ways, influenced by local beliefs and societal norms. Some cultures may emphasize gender fluidity more prominently than others. G. Historical context. The concept of Avalokiteshvara's gender fluidity can be traced back to certain Mahayana scriptures and teachings that emphasize the Bodhisattva's ability to manifest in various forms for the benefit of sentient beings. H. Interplay of compassion and wisdom. Avalokiteshvara's gender fluidity can also be seen as an interplay between compassion, associated with the feminine principle, and wisdom associated with the masculine principle, highlighting the unity of these two aspects in enlightenment. Interpretations of Avalokiteshvara's gender fluidity can vary among different Buddhist schools and communities. Some Buddhists may emphasize this aspect more prominently, while others may focus on other aspects of the Bodhisattva's teachings. Ultimately, the gender fluidity of Avalokiteshvara reflects the broader Buddhist principle of transcending dualities and embracing the interconnected nature of all phenomena. 3. Mantra. The mantra of Avalokiteshvara, also known as the Great Compassion Mantra or Om Mani Padme Hum, is one of the most widely recited and revered mantras in Mahayana Buddhism. This mantra is associated with Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, and is believed to embody the essence of compassion, wisdom, and enlightenment. Each syllable of the mantra holds profound symbolism and significance. Here's a detailed explanation of the mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om represents the sound of the universal consciousness, or the primordial sound of creation. It symbolizes the essential nature of all phenomena, and the unity of body, speech, and mind. Mani means jewel in Sanskrit, and represents the jewel of compassion. It signifies the inherent compassion within all beings, and the aspiration to cultivate compassion. Padme means lotus in Sanskrit and symbolizes wisdom. Just as a lotus emerges pure and beautiful from the mud, wisdom can arise from the muddiness of delusion. Hum signifies indivisibility and is associated with enlightenment. It represents the inseparability of wisdom and emptiness, leading to the realization of the ultimate truth. The mantra is often recited as Om Mani Padme Hum, and practitioners believe that chanting or meditating on this mantra invokes the blessings of Avalokiteshvara and facilitates spiritual progress. The mantra is thought to purify negative karma, develop compassion, and bring about a sense of inner peace and well-being. In addition to its literal meaning, the mantra holds deep symbolic significance. Om symbolizes the body, speech, and mind of all Buddhas. Mani reflects the wish to attain Buddhahood and cultivate compassion. Padme represents the 6 paramitas perfections: generosity, ethical conduct, patience, joyful effort, concentration, and wisdom. Hum signifies the indivisibility of wisdom and emptiness, leading to enlightenment. The Om Mani Padme Hum mantra is not only a meditation tool, but also a form of devotion, reminding practitioners of the qualities of Avalokiteshvara and their own potential for enlightenment. It's chanted, written, or inscribed on prayer wheels, prayer flags, and other sacred objects, and its vibrations are believed to benefit all beings and purify the environment. The mantra is embraced by various Buddhist traditions, including Tibetan Buddhism, where it holds a particularly significant place in the hearts of practitioners. 4. Iconography. The iconography of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, varies across different Buddhist cultures and traditions. Avalokiteshvara is often depicted in multiple forms, each representing specific qualities or manifestations of compassion. While the iconography can differ, certain common elements and symbols are associated with Avalokiteshvara's representations. Here's an overview of the iconography of Avalokiteshvara. A. Number of arms and eyes. Avalokiteshvara is often depicted with multiple arms and eyes, symbolizing his ability to perceive and respond to the suffering of all beings in different realms simultaneously. 1,000 arms and eyes are a common representation, but the number can vary. B. Lotus flower. Avalokiteshvara is often depicted seated on a lotus flower, symbolizing purity and enlightenment emerging from the mud of ignorance and suffering. C. Mudra. Hand gesture. The primary hand gesture of Avalokiteshvara is the Virodha mudra, the gesture of granting wishes or blessings. In some forms, he holds a lotus, a rosary, or a vase of nectar, signifying compassion, wisdom, and the ability to bestow boons. D. Bodhisattva attire. Avalokiteshvara is often adorned in Bodhisattva attire, which may include jewelry, crown, and sacred garments, representing his high spiritual status and role. E. Male and female forms. In some traditions, Avalokiteshvara is depicted in a male form, while in others, particularly in Tibetan Buddhism, he appears in female forms like Tara or White Tara, symbolizing compassion's nurturing and protective qualities. F. White and Green Tara. White Tara and Green Tara are female forms of Avalokiteshvara. White Tara represents compassion and long life, while green terror embodies swift and active compassion. G. Guanyin, in East Asian Buddhism. Avalokiteshvara is known as Guanyin and is often depicted as a graceful figure, holding a vase of compassion. H. Hearing the cries of the world. In various depictions, Avalokiteshvara is shown with an ear or ears, symbolizing his attentiveness to the cries and suffering of all beings. I. Ornate crown. Avalokiteshvara is sometimes depicted wearing an ornate crown, signifying his high spiritual stature and role as a bodhisattva. J. Compassionate expression, regardless of the specific form. Avalokiteshvara's face is often depicted with a gentle and compassionate expression, reflecting his unwavering commitment to alleviating suffering. The iconography of Avalokiteshvara reflects his role as the embodiment of compassion and his ability to manifest in various forms, to respond to the needs of sentient beings. Across different cultures and traditions, the visual representations of Avalokiteshvara serve as reminders of the Bodhisattva's qualities and inspire practitioners to cultivate compassion in their own lives. 5. Bodhisattva vows. Avalokiteshvara is said to have taken the Bodhisattva vows, committing to postpone his own enlightenment until all beings are liberated from suffering. 6. Cultural variations. Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, is revered in various Buddhist cultures and traditions, each of which has its own unique interpretations and depictions of this compassionate deity. Cultural variations in the depiction and worship of Avalokiteshvara highlight the diversity of Buddhist practices and beliefs across different regions. Here's a look at some cultural variations related to Avalokiteshvara. Tibetan Buddhism. Chenrezig, in Tibetan Buddhism, Avalokiteshvara is known as Chenrezig. He is often depicted with 1,000 arms and 11 heads, symbolizing his ability to respond to the cries of suffering beings. White terror and green terror. These are female manifestations of Avalokiteshvara in Tibetan Buddhism. White terror represents compassion and longevity, while green terror embodies active and swift compassion. 6-syllable mantra. The mantra Om Mani Padme Hum is widely recited and revered in Tibetan Buddhism, with practitioners believing it encapsulates Avalokiteshvara's compassion and wisdom. Chinese Buddhism. Guanyin, in Chinese Buddhism, Avalokiteshvara is known as Guanyin or Kuan-Yin. Guanyin is often depicted as a compassionate and merciful figure, with a gentle expression and sometimes shown holding a vase of compassion. Goddess of Mercy. Guanyin is often perceived as a goddess of mercy, compassion, and protection. She is revered by many for her ability to grant blessings and alleviate suffering. Japanese Buddhism. Kannon, in Japanese Buddhism, Avalokiteshvara is known as Kannon or Kanzeon. Kannon is depicted with various forms, including male and female representations, reflecting her compassionate nature. Bodhisattva of compassion. Kannon is regarded as the Bodhisattva of compassion in Japanese tradition. Statues and images of Kannon are commonly found in temples across Japan. Southeast Asian Buddhism. Lokeshvara. In some Southeast Asian countries, Avalokiteshvara is known as Lokeshvara. The deity is often depicted in seated or standing forms, holding attributes such as a lotus flower or a rosary. Nepalese Buddhism. Padmapani. In Nepalese Buddhist art, Avalokiteshvara is often depicted as Padmapani, the holder of the lotus. This form emphasizes compassion and purity, with Avalokiteshvara holding a lotus flower. Korean Buddhism. Gwanseum. In Korean Buddhism, Avalokiteshvara is known as Gwanseum. Gwanseum is often depicted as a compassionate figure, holding a vase containing the nectar of compassion. These cultural variations highlight the adaptability of Avalokiteshvara's symbolism and teachings to different contexts and interpretations. Despite the diverse representations, the common thread across these variations is Avalokiteshvara's role as the embodiment of compassion and the aspiration to alleviate suffering for the benefit of all beings.